Today we are doing a very, very important lesson called factor by grouping. So what we're going to do today is the same exact thing from yesterday, but we're going to do it twice, and then there's one extra step in the end. So what it says is we begin by drawing a line down the middle of our page. Line down the middle. Then it says take out the greatest common factor of both sides. So the GCF of the left is the number that I can divide a 20 and a 15 by. I can divide both of those numbers by 5. They both have an x in it, so I can take out an x. So my GCF is 5x. When I take that 5x out, I'm left with 20 divided by 5, which is 4. When exponents are stacked, you subtract. Plus 15 divided by 5 is 3. When exponents are stacked, you subtract. So the first part's done. I took out the GCF of the left side. So now I'm going to take out the GCF of the right side of that line. So the biggest number they have in common I can divide is 3. Notice this does not have an x, so I can't take out a 3x. I can only take out a 3. So now I write my leftovers. 12 divided by 3 is 4, with 1x left over. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So what you'll notice when you do this correctly is that whatever was in parentheses will match. It has to match for this to work. Because those matched, I'm going to take them out and write 4x plus 3. Then I'm going to take what was in the fronts and put those together. It was 5x and a positive 3. And that is your final answer. So now if we compare this to what we did last week, 4 times 5 is 20x squared. 3 times 5 is 15 with an x. 4 times 3 is 12x. 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, so it's the opposite of double distributing that you did last week. It's called factoring. Let's do a couple more. Number 2, draw a line down your middle. I need to take out the greatest common factor of each side. My GCF, I can divide them both by 3, and I can take out an x. Now I write my leftovers. 15 divided by 3 is 5 with an x. There's a minus sign, so put that minus sign down. 21 divided by 3 is 7. When x's are stacked, you subtract. 1 minus 1 leaves me with 0. On the right side, I can divide them both by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5 with an x. 14 divided by 2 is 7. Look at that. We did it correctly because what's in the parentheses matches. So that's what they have in common, so I can take those out. What's left over is a 3x and a positive 2. Let's try that one more time. In number 3, again, draw your border. A line down the middle. I take out the greatest common factor of both. Be careful. The biggest number that these have in common is not 4. All of us think it's 4. It's actually an 8. And they both have an x in there. So my GCF here is 8x. My leftovers, 16 divided by 8 is 2. With a x left over, 8 divided by 8 is 1. Now, this is really important. When I am taking out the GCF of the numbers on the right, I absolutely 100% have to take that sign. So the biggest number they have in common is a 3. But we take the sign of the third term, which is negative. So this is going to be a negative 3. So a negative 3 is what gets to come out. Please ignore my 4 dogs that think it's playtime. 8. Okay, so negative 3 is my GCF. When I take out a negative 3, negative 6 divided by negative 3 is 2 with an x. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is positive 1. Look at that. They match again. So my answer is 2x plus 1. 8x minus 3. Okay, you have to take the sign of this one out. If it was positive, this would be a positive, but because it's a negative, I need to take that out. Therefore, you can just copy what this was, will be the same as this. So go ahead and try number 4. Factor by grouping. When there's 4 terms, we factor by grouping. So let's look at one of these on the back. We're going to look at we'll do number 7. 5 is easy. 6 is just like 7. 7's a little bit more difficult, so we'll do 7 together. So in number 7, it's the same thing. I have 4 terms, so I take out their GCF. The front number is positive, so I take out a positive 2. You'll always have a positive in the front. Now this one, they have 2 x's in common, so I can take out 2x to the 2nd power, because they both have at least 2 x's. Now I write down 2 divided by 2 is 1. When exponents are stacked, I subtract. That's a minus sign. 2 divided by 2 is 1. On this side, the biggest number I can divide them both by is 3, but be careful. That term is a minus, so I need to take out a negative 3. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is positive 1 with an x. 3 divided by negative 3 is negative 1. Voila, they match. So my final answer is 1x minus 1, which is the same as x minus 1. And the fronts are 2x squared minus 3. Easy. Okay, go ahead and finish the back. So what we are doing today are things that we absolutely need to be successful tomorrow. So in tomorrow's lesson, it's called factoring trinomials, and that's like the biggest thing from Algebra 1 that we absolutely need to be confident for to be successful in the rest of our high school math classes. So what we're doing here will help us with tomorrow's exercise. For today, it's just a puzzle that we're solving. For tomorrow, it's going to be really important for the actual factoring piece. So what we're finishing with today is something called X puzzles. What that means is it says list the factors of the top number. So the top number is 9. So what multiplies to make 9? 1 times 9, 3 times 3. Now, circle the factors that add to make that bottom number. So the things that would multiply to make 9, but add to make 6 are 3 and 3. Not too bad. Let's do one more together. 25, factors of 25 start in order. It makes it much easier. 1 times 25, 5 times 5. Which of these factors add to make 10, a 5, and another 5? Try the same thing with number 3 and number 4. Okay, so numbers 5 and 6, we have some negatives. So on the bottom, we're going to talk about this little negative chart to help us out. So numbers that multiply to make positive is a positive times a positive. A positive times a positive makes a positive number. But a negative times a negative will also make a positive number when you multiply. So if the top is positive, these tops are positive, your signs have to be the same, either positive times positive or negative times negative. So if the tops are positive, your signs have to be the same. Now, if the top is negative, what that means is it was a negative times a positive, that would make it a negative, or a positive times a negative, which we'll talk more about in just a second. So you did 3 and 4, let's look at 5. In number 5, my factors are 1 times 9 and 3 times 3. In order to multiply to make a 9, but add to make a negative 6, it means that my factors have to be negatives. 1 and 9 will never make a 6, but 3 and 3 could. So if you struggle, you can type it in the calculator. Type in negative 3 plus negative 3 and see if you get negative 6. You sure will. So my 2 factors are negative 3 and negative 3. Go ahead, try the same thing with number 6. If it's a positive on the top, the signs will have to be the same. Let's look at a couple more, and then we're done for today. More positives on the top, so signs have to be the same. But let's look at number 9. Number 9, my factors, starting with 1. 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. If you struggle to get your factors, take your calculator, do 24 divided by 1, 24 divided by 2, 24 divided by 3, etc. So now we look at these numbers and we think, which pair could potentially be manipulated to make a 2? 1 and 24 will never add or subtract to make 2. 2 and 12, never going to make a 2. 3 and 8, never going to make a 2. 4 and 6 would if it was a negative 4. So negative 4 plus 6 is 2. Type that in the calculator. Negative 4 plus 6 is the number 2. If it wasn't, you would put the negative on the other side and then try it that way. Okay, try the same thing with 10, 11, and 12. Get all of the factors of 20. 1 times 20, 2 times 10, 4 times 5. Figure out which one would have to have a minus sign for it to make a positive 1. Easy. Snowflake puzzles will be super important for what we do tomorrow. So go ahead, try numbers 10, 11, and 12.